Well, they just can't stop telling on themselves, can they? Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. I mentioned in my community tab a few days ago that there was 166 new pages that were released in the Idaho 4 case. Some of it is very repetitive and not worth talking about, but I did take about 10 pages of new notes on what I did find extremely interesting. And what you guys know that I like to do here is comparison and contrasting. So what I wanted to do with this is compare it to other things that we have seen being filed in this case. And honestly, I didn't have to go back very far, at least not for this first subject that we're going to discuss, because there is going to definitely be a few more videos coming from this packet of information. So most of you have now seen the body cam footage of Officer Don Daniels whenever they're searching Bryan Kohberger's apartment and the storage locker is found, and they call in and they get the judge to approve them looking into the storage unit, and she signs the guy's name, like the judge's name. I find all of that extremely odd, but I also do not know the Idaho laws. But Don Daniels, I think, might be the reason for the chain of custody problem that we are seeing now very specifically being talked about in this third supplemental request for discovery. I'm gonna just put it this way. Ann Taylor ain't playing. And yes, I'm pretty positive that some of what is going on most likely is being orchestrated by Bryan Kohberger. This isn't your average defendant. He's very smart. He's very intelligent. He has spent over a decade of his life studying what is happening right now. So I'm pretty sure he has his own notes and his own things that he is having the defense team do for him. But regardless, Ann Taylor knows what she's doing. And the fact that she hired the PI that she hired tells me that she's seeing things that she has seen before. Now, not only is Ann Taylor wanting text messages from lab techs, like their phones are going to be subpoenaed to make sure they're not texting and talking to anyone outside of work about the case. She wants these lab techs' performance evaluations. Okay, she's going deep. She's going deep into this case. And one of the biggest things on this request is that they need all of the information for the chain of custody when it came to evidence. And as I was going through these 166 pages, not only am I seeing the ridiculous lack of blood that was found in the apartment once again, because this is not the first time that we have seen this evidence list. The way some of these things were handled, though, that's what we're about to get to. I'm actually going to read you guys a few pages, and we're going to talk about a couple of things as we go, because I had a few questions when it came to what Don Daniels has to state about the 3 instances that she went over to Bryan Kohberger's apartment. She was there for the original apartment search, and then Don Daniels also had to go back 2 additional times to meet up with Bryan Kohberger's side at his apartment for 2 different reasons, and we're going to go through all of that right here. I'm going to jump to page 153 of this 166 page drop, and I am going to have the link for this in the description box in case you guys want to go and skim through all of this yourselves. Now, I am going to go over a few paragraphs. We're not going to read these because it's just your basic narrative information of what's going to be talked about in this document. So we're just going to jump straight down to them actually getting to Bryan Kohberger's apartment. On 12/30/22 at approximately 06:50 hours, WSU Police Sergeant Kelly Stewart, Officers Joe Kirshner, and Dylan Tiedemann Mueller and I met in the Steptoe Apartments parking lot and waited for MPD to arrive. When they arrived, we briefed the officers on how we would make entry into the apartment and clear it. At approximately 07:14 hours, I put us on emergency radio traffic and we proceeded to the landing outside the apartment door. After donning foot coverings and gloves, We turned on our body cameras and knocked and announced on the door of G201. After knocking and announcing 3 times, we keyed into the residence. We held at the door and did another announcement before entering the residence. We cleared each room of the residence and we all exited the residence, leaving the front door ajar. During our entry, the bedroom in the northwest corner was found to be locked, and we had to key into the room, which means they, again, had the key into this locked bedroom. I know based on my experience that WSU housing often secures any room in any apartment not being leased. In this apartment, there are 2 bedrooms and only 1 subject on the lease. It is for this reason I believe there was no one residing in the room and it had not been accessed by the resident of the apartment. I also observed the room appeared to have been vacuumed, cleaned, and not occupied. I advised the crime scene techs of this after we exited the apartment. Now see, that could actually be interesting, because just because the door was locked and he was the only person that lived in the apartment did not mean that he didn't access that room for other things. So just because there wasn't a lot of blood evidence found at all in his actual apartment dwelling areas, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that second bedroom does interest me, but let's keep going. We also noticed while clearing the apartment, it was sparsely furnished and fairly empty of belongings, including no shower curtain in the bathroom, and the trash cans appeared empty. After exiting the apartment, I stayed near the front door observing while the Idaho crime scene technicians took over documenting the building. When they were ready, I made entry with the team who did the video documentation of the residence. I read the search warrant out loud on my body camera, which was later downloaded to digital evidence. Once they were done filming, we stepped outside so the residence could be photographed and documented. All crime scene logs, photographs, filming, and collection was done by the Idaho crime scene technicians. I remained on scene with them during this process, observing. Now, y'all need to keep that part in mind too for a little bit later, because this all is going to come into a big 360 by the time I'm done. I want you guys to keep in mind that the WSU officer, Dawn Daniels, just stated in her statement that all crime scene logs, photographs, filming, and evidence collection was done by ISP, because that's going to matter in a minute. At approximately 14:08 hours, the crime scene techs and I took a break. Everyone exited the residence, and Officer Aaron Lang was left guarding the front door. During the time we were gone, no one entered the residence. We resumed the search when we finished our break. While searching the apartment, we found a round padlock in the entryway closet, which I recognized as being used for storage facilities. So after everyone's done walked through the house and photographed things and collected things, then y'all went on a break where this one person was left to guard the door of the apartment, and then all of a sudden you guys go back in there from break and find something that you didn't find the first time. That's what I'm getting from this verbiage. We don't know for sure if that storage locker thing was actually ajar when found. So I just don't believe them, honestly. A key for the lock was also located on the TV stand in the living room underneath keys that appeared to be for Kohberger's office. Okay, so I want you to also to keep in mind that they are stating that Bryan Kohberger's office keys were left in this apartment. So not only was there barely any belongings and the shower curtain was gone, but his office keys were left there. Keep that in your brains. I had Officer Kirshner contact the apartment coordinator to see if residents of Steptoe Apartments had storage closets assigned to them. He stated they did. And I had Sergeant Petlovany see if there was a closet assigned to G201. Sergeant Petlovany went to Building F, where the closets are located, and stated there was a closet for G201 and the door to the closet was ajar. He stated the closet appeared to be empty. Based on this information, I contacted Judge Libby and applied to have the search warrant amended to include the storage closet to search for possible trace evidence and possible DNA evidence. The amendment was granted at approximately 16:13 hours. The amendment was done telephonically and was recorded on my body camera, which was later downloaded to digital evidence, which that is the clip that we have seen. That is the one that everyone is taking pause for. I have never once in my life heard a judge give a police officer permission to sign their name on a search warrant and it not be illegal. So I'm going to assume this is okay per Idaho, Washington law, or whatever is happening here, because this is a state line issue, okay? The laws in Washington and the laws in Idaho are going to differ a bit. So it's going to be interesting if anything comes of that, because I know when I heard him spelling out his name for her and she's signing it, oh my God, I don't even. When the search of the apartment was complete, we went to the storage closet. There were cobwebs going into the storage closet and the floor was dusty. It did not appear the closet had been used recently, and nothing was seized or collected from the closet. See, that's why this whole like storage unit thing is so strange to me. I mean, it's very possible they did just stumble upon it and he never used it and blah, 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 whatever. But it's still strange that they went in there, did all their collections. She made it very clear that ISP is the one that had went and did all of the evidence collecting, but then WSU walks in and they find this lock that ISP didn't see before. That's where yeah, you see, it's just strange to me. But then again, they're stating there was nothing in it. Like it was crusty, rusty, dusty, all the things, because the whole time he's lived there, he never even used it seems like. I don't know. Okay, so the very ending of this letter and the next two small ones are the ones where I feel I found where Ann Taylor is tripping out about the chain of custody issues. So listen. I left a copy of the amended warrant for the residence and storage closet along with a log of items seized from the apartment on the couch. A photograph of this was taken and later downloaded to digital evidence. At approximately 19:32 hours, we exited the apartment, secured the residence, and cleared the scene. I transported all of the items seized to WSU Police Department, where it was stored in evidence locker 35. Why did you, Miss WSU, take evidence that was collected and logged by ISP back to the WSU station? I don't understand that straight off the bat. All the items remained stored in locker 35 until they were transferred to Idaho State Police. Again, they're the ones who apparently collected and logged it, so I'm not understanding why this part even happened. After a short break at the station, we proceeded to Wilson Short room 12. I knocked and announced outside the door several times. I then keyed into the room and made sure there was no one inside. The warrant was read, and it was documented the room appeared to be fairly empty, except for items on one desk, which was labeled as belonging to one of the office mates, because Bryan Kohberger actually shared his workspace at WSU with two other people. The desk designated as Kohberger's by a drawing of the room on the whiteboard above the desk was empty. The desk designated as Kohberger's by a drawing of the room on the whiteboard above the desk? So does that mean that after Kohberger was arrested, or after they got this information, that somebody went into this office and took a dry erase marker and did a whole diagram on the whiteboard of the of the office room, and was like, this is Home Skillet's desk and this is Home Skillet's desk, but this one's Bryan's, and it's like sitting there on the whiteboard? That's a bit weird. When we were finished documenting the room, I secured the door and we cleared. Nothing was seized from the office. And keep in mind, again, this office is pretty empty. And this is just break. This is not end of session. This is not end of school. This is not after graduation. This is just a regular break. And everything in the office is pretty much just gone. Okay, guys, this is where I need you to really turn your ears up. I later realized I did not leave a copy of what samples were collected from the apartment with the warrant and log of items seized. I later returned to the apartment and attempted to slide an amended log under the door, but the door was sealed too tight to allow the envelope to pass through. I also advised the PA of the issue. The PA? You advised the Pennsylvania of the issue? What? Prosecuting agency? Prosecuting agency of the issue. Okay. On 12/31/22, I prepared the return of service of search warrant for both the office and the residence. The returns were provided by P.A. Tracy, who will present them to Judge Libby on 1/3/23. An order to seal all of the documents was also presented to Judge Libby and was granted. And then it's signed, blah, 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 by Don Daniels, but it's not even signed, actually. These 3 documents that we're going to be going over are written and typed up apparently by Don Daniels, but there's no signature on any of them, which I find pretty interesting. This one is whenever Don Daniels had to meet up with Bryan Kohberger's defense team at the apartment. On 1/10/23 at approximately 11:20 hours, I met with the defense attorney and 3 others from her team for Kohberger at his residence. They showed me a piece of paper signed by Kohberger granting permission to enter his apartment to remove the WSU office keys that had been seen sitting on the TV stand during the warrant service. At approximately 11:25 hours, I unlocked the door and provided them entry into the apartment. They went to the TV stand and provided me the 2 keys I had recognized as belonging to WSU. The key numbers were U124 and Z261. I later confirmed these keys accessed the office, Room 12 in Wilson Short Hall, and other spaces in the Criminal Justice Department of Wilson Short Hall. Now listen. While at the apartment, I explained to the attorney I had forgotten to include the 3 samples taken from the apartment and provided her a copy of the return of search. She took the return of search and took the copy of the amended warrant and items seized log from the couch. Members of her team took photographs of the apartment and removed a receipt from the cupboard in the bathroom. That part is a bit odd, I do agree. I believe they may have taken some other paperwork items from the living room. I remained outside the door during this time. At 11:41 hours, we all exited the apartment and I secured the door. I cleared the residence. Later in the day, I took the 2 keys to the Criminal Justice Department and turned the keys over to the chair of the department, Melanie Angela Newelley. I certify and declare blah, 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 blah. That is over 10 days. Now, this is the second supplemental narrative. So this is the second time that Don Daniels had to go out to Bryan Kohberger's apartment to meet with his defense team. On 1/19/23, so 9 days later, at approximately 15:15 hours, I was asked to meet with Bryan Kohberger's defense team, which consisted of Ann C. Taylor, Michael P. McCarthy, and Jennifer L. Jenquin, for assistance gaining access to Bryan Kohberger's residence. Upon contact with Taylor, she showed me a signed letter from Bryan Kohberger granting Taylor's defense team access to his apartment to gather some of his belongings, but didn't let me keep the paperwork. Probably because she knew you weren't going to do what you were supposed to do with it. Taylor stated they would email me a copy of the paperwork for my records. I opened the door and granted the 3 of them access to his apartment. They removed a flat screen TV, a computer monitor, a small box with the miscellaneous papers and receipts, a laundry basket with full of books, a laundry basket that was full of books, probably is what that should have said, and a medium-sized box that I couldn't see the contents. So, backtrack a second. The apartment was pretty much scarce. There was no shower curtain, and the trash cans were all empty. There was no pillowcase on his pillow, but they were able to go in and still remove a flat screen TV, a computer monitor, a small box with miscellaneous papers and receipts, and a laundry basket full of books, along with a medium-sized box that the contents are unknown. We're going to talk about the timeline of Bryan's apparent issues at WSU that apparently got him terminated, because you could sort of say, okay, he left his WSU keys at the apartment. All of his stuff was basically out of the apartment, considering the fact he even took his shower curtain out of the bathroom. They were at the apartment for approximately 10 minutes and advised I could lock the door after they left. I secured Kohberger's apartment by locking the deadbolt. Before leaving, I provided Taylor with my business card and asked that she send the paperwork they showed me for access to Kohberger's apartment. Taylor told me she would. As of 1/24 of 23, I haven't received any emails from Taylor or her team. And this is where I actually kind of felt as if maybe Ann Taylor did that on purpose, because of what we previously found out about how Don mishandled the 3 key pieces of evidence information. So I just feel like this was some snark from Ann Taylor to not email her this information. But I'm still going to go back to why? If she herself, Dawn Daniels herself, told us in her own narrative that all of the evidence collection was done by Idaho State Police Forensics, then why was anything ever kept in custody with WSU to begin with? Because honestly, it's caused all kinds of controversy. As you can see in the paperwork, all of the things that were collected are marked for no testing and not being sent to the lab. And that has caused a whole bunch of questions, and very good questions, because it doesn't seem like it makes sense. Idaho State Police should have been the ones to document everything, and it turns out they were. So why didn't they automatically collect the evidence and keep the evidence with them themselves, considering that law enforcement is telling us that Idaho State Forensics are the ones that also did the crime scene evidence collection? So why wouldn't they just tag, bag, and everything themselves? Why would WSU have taken the evidence and the logs of evidence that were not done by their own agency and keep them because it then needs to be transferred? Why wouldn't the Idaho State Police just be able to take it themselves where it needed to go? I feel like this entire thing is the reason why they are so adamant that they get all of the evidence that the prosecution states that they have. That she is going so hard into even wanting the resumes and performance evaluations and text messages from the lab techs that touched all these things, because it does not smell clean. Everyone can admit that there is a bunch of really off-the-wall, bullshittery bullshit going on here that does not make sense. And the more information that they release to us, the more adamantly clear it becomes that something is not right here. I just can't wait to see what it actually is.